everyone. So another year, another just disappointing All-Star game. It's basically just a 3-point and dunk contest. But it's not even like spectacular anymore. You know what I mean? It's not even like they're doing like crazy things regularly, like in some past years where they're throwing crazy lobs to each other, and it's just kind of like this show, the spectacle. It's just kind of them just getting cardio for a full length of a game, and it's just I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how they fix and correct this level of play, right? Adam Silver, he had his All-Star game press conference, and he talked about it, and he addressed it, and he said, we spoke to these guys. We asked how can they, what can we do as an organization to make this game more competitive, make this game better, and he said that we're working on some changes, trying to get them not as cold, right? Extending the halftime like we have been. Adam Silver addressed that, hey, we turned it. It's part of the league's fault too, right? That the league kind of turned it into this entertainment. They focused more on the entertainment side rather than the basketball side. And he really wants to work hard to make it more basketball related and get back to just playing good branded basketball. But how? Right? These guys don't really care. There's not really the competitiveness that there was in years past. And, I don't want to sound like the guy that, the old guy that's like, oh, back in my day. But seriously, for years now, it's just been guys out there getting cardio. And I understand, it's for the fans. It's for the people to just kind of get to see all their favorite players on the basketball court. But they also want to see them play basketball. You're better off just doing like meet and greets all weekend and having something where like the fans get to come and play with the fans or something. Because it's just, this isn't basketball. They have practices and scrimmages that are more just competitive and entertaining than this. And you look back to like the early 90s, the late 90s, early 2000s, even in the 80s, like these were real games. They were going at each other. They wanted to show that they were better than the other guys. They wanted to prove a point. They had that competitive nature and that competitive juice. And I'm not saying that these guys in the modern NBA aren't competitive. They are, but it's just for whatever reason, this game, they just don't really seem to care. It's just like, hey, let's get out there, let's get a sweat, let's have a good time, no one get hurt. And I get you. Last thing you want, because the goal is an NBA championship. The last thing you want to do or see is a player get hurt in an all-star game trying to overextend itself. But you got to find some level of competitiveness. To score over 200 points in an all-star game, I get we are in an offensive-driven league, but come on, that's ridiculous. Ridiculous. And it just, if you watch the game, it's just literally just back and forth layup drills or just pull up threes. Okay, you take a turn. Here you go. Okay, I'll take a turn. Oh, let's have Jokic take a half court shot. It's just a silly spectacle. And to me personally, right, I would rather have a real all-star game and have it competitive. Like, why don't you get all like the rookie, the rookie versus sophomore game is more competitive than this. Right? Like, even like the celebrity all-star game is more competitive. Like, guys are actually going at it. I would rather you find a way to add some incentive to these players or get players that will. Right? Like, what was it? It was like the G League team ended up winning, and you saw the competitiveness in that game. Right? Like, instead of having the East versus West that want to be there, like, I'd rather you have a game where people actually care. I'd rather you have like the rookies or something, rookies versus sophomore game be highlighted and then just have them duke it out for like $1 million or something, right? The winning team gets $1 million. Because like, how much money are you going to be able to give these? Every guy on the roster for the All-Star game are all making $50 million a year, right? $40 million a year, whatever, right? They don't care. Like, how much money can you give them to have them be incentivized? And then even like to donate to charities and stuff like that, right? Like, these guys are doing that anyway for write-offs and all that stuff. They're mandatory to do X amount of community service hours and stuff. Like, they're all or like they're just looking at it as like, okay, we do this stuff anyway, all right? Like, how much money can you incentivize these all-stars to get them to play? So, okay, if money isn't a factor, how else can you incentivize them, right? Unless you do something to where, the winning team, I don't even know, right? Because it's not like you can't do something where like the MVP or something, their team gets something. Like, you'd have to do something to where these players feel like, okay, we got to go and ball out. And I don't know what the answer is. The money has just gotten too loud, too big, too excessive, that the only really thing is to add an incentive to get them to compete. But I don't know. Like, how do you force players to go out there and play a real basketball game? Like, what are you going to do? You're going to fine them, right? It's like, I don't know. Like, and that's where the dilemma lies. It's where the problem lies. It's like, how do you fix this and make this a better organized game rather than just us standing around for 2.5 hours watching them basically stand around for 2.5 hours? It just, I would rather lean towards like reserve, like have the reserves, have the guys that'll never be an all-star. Let them go and play, right? Take the top 10 bench players from the East and the West and have them duke it out and see if that's better. Because this display, it's not even a showcase, right? It's not even like, at least exhibitions and showcases, you literally see, I mean, there's more competition in the summer league and in the preseason than there are in the All-Star game. And it's just, there's no real prize. There's no real incentive, and I just don't see a path to add an incentive. Right? Maybe if you made like the winner of the only thing I can think of is like you did something where, you have East versus West and the winner, they get home court or something. But then that becomes tough because it's like, then what's the incentive during the regular season to have the best record in the league? Right? It's something that like the MLB did for many years. I don't believe they do it anymore. But at one point they did where, the winning all-star team got home field. Right? So you'd have to do some incentive like that to where a team goes, man, like if we get home court throughout the playoffs, even if we don't have the better record, then that would be great, right? Like, if we're the 4th seed and no matter who we play, we get home court now. Maybe that's something, but even then it's like, okay, well, you have some of these guys that are on teams that they know, like, we're not going to the finals. Like, we're not, like, realistically, we're a play-in team at best. Or, we're a first-round exit at best. So, like, am I really going to go out here and overextend myself? We need to find a way to get the competitive juices going. We need to find a way to get these guys competing at the highest level. I'm not saying that they have to go out there and kill themselves for 2.5 hours. I'm not saying that they have to go 1,000%, but at least have some level of competitiveness, at least have some level of just like, it's not just back and forth cardio. Okay, you get a layup now. Okay, you can get a dunk. All right, well, we're just, again, they scored 211 points. 211 points. By one team. That wasn't like the score total. It wasn't like the total over they scored 211 points. No, one team, the Eastern Conference, by themselves scored 211 points. So it's just like, how can you take it serious? How can the fans take it serious? How can people get excited about the All-Star game? Adam Silver talked about how, every year we have the All-Star game, and then every year, everyone's just bashing it. And it's like, well, yeah, look at this display. Look at what the product is that you're putting out there for the All-Star game. I want to come on and talk about how great the All-Star game was. I don't want to speak negatively about the game of basketball and the game that I love so much and the thing that I'm trying to use as a foundation to grow a career. Like, I don't want to have to come on here and be like, oh, I want to be able to be like, this was great, this was incredible, man, what a game, that was just spectacular. But I don't see that happening, and it's just year in and year out. It's like, oh, here we go again. Okay, I wonder how many points they're going to score this time. Next year, are they going to score? Maybe they'll score 250, right? It's just, and you're seeing, and the thing that's so frustrating is the players are getting more and more skilled, more and more just talented. I don't mind the high scores if there is a level of competitiveness, right? If they scored 208 points and there was actually real defense, and it's just like, man, the offense is just so good in today's NBA. Like, that's why. Then I'd be like, hey, that's what it is, right? Look at all these, you're talking about the best offensive players in the world all playing against each other. But that's not what it is. It's not like it's this highly competitive game where guys are going back and forth and it's just like, man, it doesn't matter how good your defense is. This is a dream team here. Like, no, it's literally them just layup drills. There's no defense. Everyone just gets out of the way. There's no challenges. There's no nothing. There's no fouls. You had a real game. You look at 20 years ago, they were real games, right? There were fouls being called because guys are being physical and aggressive. There were flagrants, people getting their nose broken, right? Like, it was crazy. And again, I'm not saying it has, like, you want that. Like, last thing you want to do is see the star on your team end up missing a month because of an all-star game. But you can still, these guys are so talented, they could half-ass it and still look like it's semi-competitive. I'm not saying it has to be elite, lockdown, everybody's just bought in on both sides of the basketball, and like, but at least fake it. At least have some level of competitiveness, at least have some level of like, okay, like, that was just a good game of basketball, right? There's some highlight plays, there's some good moments, but it's not even that. It's literally just a 3-point contest, which we already have for the All-Star game. Only this time it's all like the big names. And then, it's a slam dunk contest and a layup drill. Just like who can get the most dunks, right? You got, even Damian Lillard, which, congratulations, Damian Lillard. Credit Dame. Winning 3-point contest. He's having himself an all-star weekend, 3-point contest, and now the all-star MVP. So credit him for that. But the dude's out there taking half-court threes and just jacking up stuff, and it's just, how can you take it serious? Like, the MVP trophy just goes to whoever scores the most points on the opposing team or the team that wins it, right? That's literally what it is. It's just whichever team wins it, whoever had the most points, they get the MVP. To me, I would rather have it like, try to incentivize the MVP and see if guys take it serious, right? Like, it's not just about who scores the most points. It's about who had the best plus minus, or who had, the best defensive impact calculated with the best offensive. You have all the analytics. You have everything in real time anyway. Right? So why not make it to where it's not who just scores the most points, it's actually who played the best all-around game. Like, who played the best, who was the best defensive player, offensive player, defense player, whatever. Right? And you whatever. I don't know. I don't know how you incentivize these guys. So my thing is just like, make the individual accolade more competitive and set a criteria, and maybe have some incentive to that, where, yeah, you get the MVP, but you get an extra $1 million and you get to take your family on a vacation paid for by the NBA for a weekend or whatever in the off season. I don't know, something like that, where maybe then you'll get players that are like, man, dude, I really want the MVP. I'd really like to just take a week off, paid for, get $1 million for me and my family. I get the accolade, right? And maybe guys try to pick it up a little bit more, because it's just like, what else do you do? How else do you make it? How else do you adjust to where these players take it more serious? I don't know, but however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. What do you think? Is there a way to kind of fix this, to correct this? Do you think no? Like these guys just they're never gonna really care enough to where it'll matter, which is why I kind of lean towards like I'd almost rather see something where you know, or even have the top 12 players in the NBA take on like the 12 bench players or something, right? Get the guys involved that don't want to do like put the superstars in a position where they have to play, right? Or the only solution that I genuinely could see is you have like a US versus the world. To where maybe these foreign players will look at it as like, okay, well, we want to represent our countries. We want to represent the world. We want to prove that the world is better. That's literally the only solution that I see. You have the NBA versus or the US versus the world. And you have this competitive game, or you go like a tournament format, and you just have guys from like various countries play 5-on-5 for like a quarter or whatever, and then it's like elimination or something. And you got to add some competitive injection into this. And so the only way I see this really having that type of impact is you find what the players are most proud of and you use that to get them to be proud about the game, right? If they're wearing their their country jerseys, maybe they'll actually play. And now the US is like, ah man, like we don't want to get out here and get busted up, right? Like we don't want to end up losing. Like we want to prove the US is better. Make it almost Olympic themed to where it's like, it's literally the best players in the world going at it. And you have this breakdown. And I mean, even some of like the US, like, because that's been the question, because I've talked about this before. And one of the things that get brought up is like, okay, well, what about the years that you don't have top European players? Like, yeah, right now it's like Jokic and Giannis and Luka and stuff like that. But what happens if we have a season? Like, even some of the US players, a lot of them are foreign. A lot of them have roots for other countries and stuff like that, and they are proud of that, right? Like, I don't know. I just think you gotta have some type of incentive, and I think that's the only way to do it. Where you have something where it's like you're representing your country, and it's U.S. versus the world. You have people from Europe and Canada and whatever versus U.S. and it's like Kevin Durant, LeBron, Davis, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, like these guys versus Luka, Jokic, Giannis, right? And it's just all these big foreign superstars versus the U.S. superstars. It's kind of the way that I see it fixed. But again, love your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Helps me to enjoy these types of videos. Truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate you.